Hello, beautiful people. Hey, party people.
How you doing?
I am excellent. How are you?
Pretty good. Trying to send out the link here.
Yeah, let
Let
me
it
try to do that. Let me try to do that too. People were saying they wanted to roll through. Hold on a sec. I am not the best clubhouse moderator, just so everybody knows. So give me a minute. Okay, I've rousted some people. We'll see this. So I think Almaz is having a room tonight. So not a room, but I think she's doing a Zoom thing for St. Louis properties, maybe. So
Oh, okay.
some people might be over there too. I didn't realize that we were scheduling it that way, but it's all good.
No problem.
We'll just get it going.
So how you
So hello,
so how you doing?
I'm good. I'm excited to be with you here this evening and everyone that's here. So welcome everybody that's here. Tobias and I thought it would be. We just thought let's chop it up. Let's talk about it, and especially I think given the recent conversations, right, about sort of this upcoming window for the way money's going to work and credit's going to work and financing things are going to work. We just thought it would be good to chop it up and have me come to his stage, his room. I think I usually just do Almaz's room, so I'm honored to be here with you, sir.
Yeah, I'm happy to have you. So one thing that I've invited Veronica on for, and I get a lot of this with my clients, and this is how I've missed stuff in the past, is just being scared to make a move. Sometimes you can get frozen, and that is kind of Veronica's area on helping free people up on making decisions and scaling up their business model. So she's helped me a ton over the years. We've helped each other, but I've learned a lot from her is in regards to that. So I kind of want to hand the stage over to her and kind of let her go over a little bit about what may be holding you back from making a decision and how maybe to clear those things up.
It's beautiful. And it's time, right? It's time right now to be really incredibly agile. And while I'm sort of teeing this whole conversation up, go ahead and put any challenges that you're having in your own life, in your own business, in your own profession, in your own family life, with being agile. And since it's going to be a fairly intimate room tonight, we can do a little live coaching because I love to coach people. So go ahead and put in the chat, just any challenges that you're having. But I just want to welcome everybody that's in the room. Thank you, Tobias, so much for having me. And Tobias and I have known one another since before the Earth cooled. Long time we've known each other, right? Tobias has been since forever. And
It's been years.
just for a little context, for we met in a colleague of yours, Ron's, right? Credit. Um,
Yep. And
what was it?
redress.
It was redress, right? The redress. How do you redress credit issues? And I had been coming out of a divorce in which I had to basically pick up the entire ball for my two kids that were in private high schools, that I was living in Marin County, which ain't cheap, if for those that know. And so in that situation with my ex-husband and in the conditions under which we negotiated the terms of our divorce, in order for me to take the kids and be the primary care custodian, I just sort of had to take on the debt, right? I had to just take it on, because he was actually smarter than me in the divorce, believe it or not. And so I found myself in kind of a world of hurt, right? Saddled with a lot of debt, and some of his debt, some of our joint debt. We had a house. This was like after 2008. Our house was turned upside down, right? It went underwater, as many people's houses did. And so I was sort of carrying a very heavy load and was scared. I think that historically, because of the way that they have conditioned us and trained us to think about credit and creditors and debt, there's a lot of shame that goes along with it, right? There's a lot of shame that goes along with, um, I owe these people money, and I'm a bad person, and I'm not, and I'm not paying my bills, and I have mouths to feed, and right, it's all of these stories and narratives that we have in our heads, our pretty little heads. So I was sort of laboring under that burden. I had three companies. Um, I was running I founded the world's first Black coaching association in the world. We were taking culturally competent coaching into the United States and some overseas. I had a coaching company that was specifically dedicated, called Phenom, that was dedicated to the celebrity and entertainment industry. That was in partnership with a colleague of mine, Tina. You may have heard of her. Her daughter is a celebrity on the rise now. We had a company that just dealt with celebrities. We were coaching the NBA at the time. The tall boys with the balls, as I lovingly called them, um, and some pro athletes, right? So we were sort of coaching some of the masters of the universe. And then I had a third coaching company, Tribe, at the time, where I did, nonprofit work and all that stuff. So I was really immersed in the coaching world, was running three companies, um, and was exiting a divorce and then the 2008 crash with a lot of debt. And so when I met Tobias in Redress, in this credit course, we got down to business about the discharge of debt. And I'd never quite seen anything like it because, I was raised in a household. My stepmother was very responsible with her credit, and you pay your bills on time. And, she'd have her panics, about credit and stuff like that. But basically, you pay your bills. And then I found myself in a situation with a ton of pressure with no end in sight, and was scared. Because, as you know, for those of you that have been challenged with issues related to credit, it's difficult to make moves, right? It's very difficult to make moves. So, um, and it's even more difficult in this day. Can you get an apartment? Can you rent a place, right? What can you do? So, in this commission with Tobias, we studied like banshees. We studied the Fair Credit Reporting Act and the Fair Debt Collections Practices Act. We studied that like crazy. It's law, right? And you got to study it like a lawyer, basically, so that you are agile and fluid, right, in how you negotiate with these alleged creditors. So we would spend hours, right, Tobias? We would spend hours and hours and hours on Sundays, and we would go over the distinctions and the nuances of the law. Because when you go to discharge debt, when you go to discharge large amounts of credit and debt, you have to really understand the nuances if you're going to, go to battle with them. So with Tobias's help and support, I discharged about almost $500,000, including my old mortgage and a line of credit that was attached to it. And it was all legal, right? Because we use the law, and we did to them what they do to us, which is put them on an administrative process, right? When they put you on send you a 30-day notice and then a 60-day notice, and they say you don't respond, all that stuff that's very terrorizing, right? They're calling you. You just you turn it around and you do it to them. And it is a liberating experience to realize, right, that you are equipped and armed and have the capacity to actually take on these situations. Oh, you lost me?
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
we can hear you now though.
Uh, Okay, great. So it was very liberating, and it really changed my perspective about the way money works. I'd done a lot with money. I had worked with Laurel Langmeyer, Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I was a cash flow coach. I was a coach for all the Rich Dad advisors, right? John Burley in the day and Sharon Lechter, and they all had coaching programs. And I was a brand new little baby coach. This was way long time ago, and would facilitate the cash flow game, teaching real estate. I did a lot of financial coaching in the nonprofit world. We did big deals. We really pioneered financial coaching in the nonprofit world, in the foundation world. So the MacArthur Foundation, the N.E.G Foundation, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We basically disrupted what at the time was the social. They had a lot of case managers and social workers in there working with low income people, right, to help them manage money, right? So, uh, these were people that were in the toughest cities in America. We traveled the country. We trained case managers that were typically in a very deficit approach to money with folks. These are folks that were coming out of prison, off of welfare, had never, made a child support payment, all these factors, right, that happen when you're in poverty. So we took an original program, went on the road, taught that all over the country, and basically put coaching on the map in the philanthropic sector. It did not exist until we did it. We did the original pilots. So I had been really, I had a lot of exposure in the world of money. I had exposure to Laurel Langmeyer and Kiyosaki, and was doing a lot of financial coaching, and then was doing all this work in the nonprofit world with financial coaching. But yet and still, right, when it came, and I was running around the country making money, I had a nanny, two assistants, kids in elite private schools, got them $1 million worth of elite financial education. And yet and still, right, you go through a divorce, right? And all that shit crumbles to the ground, right? And so, because I was left holding the bag, and so I had to pick up the bag. And so all the training that I had been in, and all of the management that I had done, and we were keeping good, clean books for both personal and business, and we were, I had a full-time business manager, and all of that sort of collapsed because I got a divorce, and because I didn't know uh, what I know now, I was scared. And so this brilliant man, Tobias, held my hand and walked me through some of the most sort of scary and tenuous and frightening situations with creditors, because I just didn't think you could do the things that he knows how to do. I was like, you can't do that. They're the bosses. That's the man, right? You can't do that. And one by one, file by file, bill by bill, we knocked out close to $500,000, or discharged $500,000 of the debt legally. So that is the story of how Tobias and I came to connect. And I will be eternally grateful to him for, his patience, his stewardship, his clarity, right? To know what he knows and do what he does, you have to be so precise and so specific and so learned and so um, and also quite brave, right? And challenging, and be a bit of a gangster. So I learned so much from him in that process. So Tobias, I will always be grateful to you for that. Thank you. Set me free. And most importantly, and I think what is relevant for this room tonight, in that process, right? It's not just what you learn, it's who you become. Set my mind free from this sense that I was on the hook for all this, debt and stuff. when you begin to move, um, and see what's possible and see what's available and see the constraints, right, that you can release, the shackles that you can release. I have a lot of themes in my work about freedom. How do you get free? How do you get free? How do you feel freer? How do you move freer? um, when you see that and you experience it and you demonstrate it to yourself, you trust yourself differently. You experience life differently, right? Because nobody's the boss of you. So that's my story, and that's I'm sticking to it. And so tonight, um, I want to talk to you about how you can move with more freedom, whether it is regards to your financial freedom, whether it's regard to getting free around credit so that you have room, so that you have buffers, so that you have space to move the way that you need to while these Hunger Games are on the horizon. And if you were in the room recently with Tobias a few short weeks ago, he talked about, I think very powerfully, this window that we have. So just to remind you, um, we really and truly have about for till first quarter of 2023 to make some major moves, with regard to our finances, with regards to our credit, with regard to getting what Tobias calls a paper, with regard to being in the right sort of structure and entity, right? So that we are protected, so assets are protected. We have a short window of time. And so my my flag in the ground, my stake in the ground, eternally and always, is how do human beings become more free, more agile, more decisive, more powerful, more liberated? How do they move around this planet with greater and greater speed and clarity and alacrity? I love that word, alacrity. If I don't know it's like speedy and agile, right? Alacrity. I'm moving with alacrity. Nobody uses that word, but I'm claiming that word. So how do you do that, right? And so much of it, I shout it from the rooftops all the time. So much of my particular lens on it is really having your head on straight, having your emotions in check or aligned, having your vision be very vivid and very clear, right? A vision that is lit up in your nervous system, you can't stop moving towards it. A vision that is actually lit up and activated in your nervous system, you cannot stop moving towards it. You must answer to it. And the problem with vision in a world on fire is that there's so many things that are competing for your attention, aren't there? Right? They say there's vision and there's current reality, and you move towards the strongest picture. And the thing about current reality is that current reality is very compelling, right? Like right now, it's the sound of my voice, it's the kids down the hall, it's the hungry belly, it's the belly that's digesting food, it's the TV screen, it's the computer screens, it's right. It's there's so much in our current reality that competes for our attention, and yet where attention flows, energy goes. So when we are constantly focusing on current reality, what we tend to do is operate in a pattern of glitch. Well, this thing happened today, and the news is all fucked up. And I had an argument with my spouse this morning, and that my sister-in-law ain't shit, right? We have a lot of thoughts and things that run through our head on a loop, right? That consume our attention, that consume our focus, that consume our awareness, and because current reality is so compelling, we tend to focus on it a lot. And so the first step that I want to offer you tonight is to think about what is your highest, most potent, most powerful vision. What must you cause, create, demonstrate, and implement in the next 7 months? What must it be? What must it be? Right? What must it be? Like, all bets off, Hunger Games on the horizon. How must you position yourself, right? and then align a very potent vision to whatever that is. What we often do, and many of you know I'm a master hypnotist, right? That's one of the modalities that I use, neurolinguistic programming, hypnotism, because job one in my world is to get a handle on that monkey mind, right? Because you know what y'all be doing. Y'all be sitting around with the committee of voices in your head, the little committee that's saying, you can't do that, you ain't should, but your mama told you, right? All of the stories, right? We tend to put those on a loop and play them over and over again. So in hypnosis, what we do is we shrink the current reality and we expand and blow up the vision. What we typically do as humans, right, the way we're sort of built and wired, is we make what we are afraid of very, very intense and very, very vivid and very, very compelling. And we make the vision, the target, the goal, we shrink that down and we make it weak and fuzzy, and we put it, if it be, it's a hope, it's a preference, it could happen one day, out there in the future, sometime. And so as long as you're walking around with a vision that's sort of fuzzy and dark and off to the left and off to the future, and the current reality, the things that clamor for your attention, right, the unpaid bills, the um, creditors, right? All those things, logistics. If that's what you're focusing on, then you get more of that. If you focus on the vision, then you get more of that. And so, a big first step in your process of how to move fast, think fast, be agile, is to recalibrate and re-reference what you focus on. So let me just give you a little, I like to do it, a little exercises and visualizations. So close your eyes, take a deep breath in, and think about something that bugs you, or haunts you, or troubles you, or challenges you. And just kind of bring it to the screen of your mind. Something that, is up for you a lot. And bring it to the screen of your mind. And notice how it makes you feel. Notice how your 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 internal conversation, what that becomes when you focus on that. Notice what you see in your mind's eye, right? Notice if you see your body in the picture or if you're looking through your own eyes. Notice the colors and the sounds, right, of this challenge, this issue. And notice how you feel. Notice the energy of it in your body. Maybe it's in your belly or it's in your fingertips, or right, where's the energy of that, where does the pressure of that, the intensity of that, where do you feel it in your body? And now expand it and notice and make it bigger, make it stronger, make it more uncomfortable, right, really intensify it. Notice the colors and the sounds and make it big, and notice how you feel. Okay, now clear the screen. Just imagine like a blue curtain, or an ocean of water, just kind of clearing that screen. Just set it aside. Notice how that made you feel, right? But think about it. That's what we do. And if you tell the truth with me tonight, tonight, brothers and sisters, you know that that's how you're walking around out here. Because it's a very human thing. No shame in that game. That's how most of us are walking around here, right? As we're walking around here, um, focusing on the things that we don't want. Y'all do it. I know y'all be doing it. Listen, being in these clubhouse streets is by definition, some of these rooms that we go in, and I'm as guilty as any of us, right? Some of these rooms we go in, we're focusing on what we don't want, aren't we? Getting it on a loop, just playing it back, uh, the noise, right? On a headphone, focusing on what we don't want. So now go ahead and take, so that, you just wash that, down. Actually, bring that image back to the screen of your mind, that challenge image. Go ahead and bring it back. The screen of your mind. See what you see, hear what you hear, feel what you feel when you are focused on challenge. And now just imagine making that picture black and white. Make it black and white and shades of gray. Mute it. If there's any sounds, let those sounds get very fuzzy, kind of like an old TV, like the rabbit ears. Remember those days? Some of us will not remember those days. I am an old lady, so I remember those days. But old scratchy TV screen with the rabbit ears. Make it very fuzzy. Shrink the image. Notice how your body reacts. Shrink it down to a little tiny dot almost. That image. Shrink it down to a dot. Put it over to the left. Move that image over to the left and place it below you. Right? Just place it below you. And notice how you feel. Right? And now take it and just send it all the way off into the sun. Just send it all the way out to the sun. Right? And so notice what happened in your nervous system. Right? The tension that you felt, the pressure that you felt, maybe the sense of powerlessness or hopelessness. Now take whatever the opposite of that is, that challenge, when you have it the way you want it, the vision. What would it be like if you could have it the way you want it now? So bring that to the screen of your mind, blow it up, make it big, make it so that it's happening in 360 degrees all around you, as though it is happening now. It's a beautiful movie playing out this vision. Intensify the colors, make them brighter, make them powerful, looking through your own eyes out at this vision. Notice any sounds, maybe sounds of celebration, or you can listen to your inner sounds, right? Like sounds of satisfaction, like, yeah, you're a badass. I got this. Feel it. And then turn up the volume on the feelings. Take a dial, turn it all the way up, turn it all the way up. Intensify the vision, intensify. Good. And come back. So you see the difference? Right? Just that simple, it's like how we focus, right? With the screen of our mind, right? With our five senses. What we focus on, we get more of. And so in this time, this era, right, this is really about focusing on what you want. Because when you focus on the challenge all the time, it creates friction. You stutter, right? You don't move as fast as you need to. You don't respond as quickly as you need to. When you are focused on the vision, you are answering to it. And when you are focused on the challenge, you are answering to that also. And so what I find, and many of you may find this, is that when you're in like a peak state and when you're, and you see something that you want and you're really going after it and you're really committed to it and you're going to do it, right? And it's on, it's done, right? Then you tend to move differently. You tend to respond to things differently. You tend to feel more joyful. You tend to think more quickly, right? Because it's not all in these negative, low grade, low vibration thoughts, feelings, and sounds. That's a simple way, right, to begin to wake it up, right? Wake up your nervous system and bring your attention to the things that are for you. So that's one way. So I'll take a little pause here and see if there's any questions, or if anybody has any, you can put it in the chat or you can come up on stage. Any reaction to what we just did and the impact that it had on you?
And don't be shy.
Yeah, don't be shy. This ain't a shy room. These are the ladies. So yeah, either put it in the chat what you just experienced, or you're welcome to come up to the stage and share your experience. We'd love to have you.
Hi.
Hey, Journey.
Hi. I'll speak very briefly. I didn't get to. I think I kind of got lost in thought as you were doing the toward the end.
Yeah.
What I can say about the beginning is the what I felt was sort of a headache, thinking of the challenges.
Yeah.
Um, which is funny because I was dealing with some stuff from my my part time private practice earlier today, and it was nothing but a headache. And I've been sitting here for most of the
Mhm.
afternoon and evening thinking to myself, I need to just scrap this whole thing because this is really, really aggravating all of the stuff that needs to be done on the back end. So that's all for now.
Mhm. Okay, good. Yeah. And wait, one more thing. Do you still have the headache?
Not as bad.
Yeah, when you focus on the vision.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, good. Yeah, right, because what how we use our attention, our awareness, our focus, that has an effect on our biology, right? It really has an effect on our biology. So, it's very important that we become very specific and very nuanced, right, about how we use our attention. And I would say, and you've heard me say this before, but in the era of post-COVID or whatever phase of COVID that we are in, this great sort of blurring of time, right? Because we don't have as usually as much variety in our rhythms and our patterns. We don't do as think about what you were doing, kind of pre-COVID. You traveled more and you did more things. There was just more variety. And it's not that it's not, opened up, it's people are moving around out here, but in a way, we sort of settled into this routine of being in our houses all the time, being in one space, seeing the same thing over and over again. So time can feel very blurry, right? It can feel like it all merges together with no definition between this hour and that hour and that hour, right? We're in summer, right? Some of you, have the kids are off, and everybody's sort of like, there's a lull, right? There's a lull, and sort of so what that can produce is sort of this very low grade sense of restlessness and discomfort, but also a great sense of distraction, right? We're kind of always looking at screens now, right? We're kind of always, you know, we're moving differently. I know I am. And I have to make a very conscious decision if to move differently, right? To move my body, to cause variety in my environment. So I just noticed that as sort of a theme in the world since COVID happened. I don't think we've ever really quite come back from that. So, um, but in that, when you have that blurry sense of time, then outcomes seem fuzzier, don't they? Did I do it or didn't I? Is it accomplished or isn't it? And furthermore, if you're embarking upon something new, like a vision to have a paper credit, right? In by first quarter of next year, a vision to have a business by next year, a vision to change profession, by next year, to move, right, to have a relationship, the goals that you have for your children. If it's new and you've never done it before, a vision by definition you've never done before, because otherwise it wouldn't. That's why it's called a vision. You haven't done it before. And so when you're off to embark upon a vision, um, not only does current reality compete with it, but also, and this collapsed blurry time competes with it, but also you don't know what you don't know when you're off to do a vision because you haven't done it before, right? You don't necessarily have a roadmap. You can even, get subject matter expertise like mine or Tobias or Amas, people who have walked that path right in front of you, right? And they can show you, don't go here, girl, right? Don't do that. Don't, but go here. Do it if you're afraid. Do it if you're afraid, right? They've walked that path, so they know what some of the landmines are. But very often, if you're off to embark upon a vision and do something new, it's hard to know when you've reached the outcomes and the metrics, right? And the goals that are in between because you haven't done it before, right? When have I arrived at this thing? When is it done? I was working with somebody actually earlier today, and we helped her get her time handled because she's on a learning curve. She's got a new business. There's a huge learning curve there, and so there's this sense of pressure about, well, I have to be studying all the time. I have to be studying all the time. You don't. Time block, 4 or 5 hours a day. Be very intentional. Be very focused. Be very outcome focused, right? And get it done, and then walk away, so that you have a life in this life, even though you have a business, right? I work about 5 hours a day. And my primary business is really like appointments and training and all that is really 3 days a week. I have re-engineered my calendar so that I get the most bang for my buck, and you should too. You don't have to be in this grinding, winding state of consciousness where it never ends and it never stops, and you're not sure if you're making progress. And right, that's why in the context of setting visions, you have to vision, you have to set little interim goals so that you know you got it, so that your mind can celebrate, so that it will reward you and have you feel inspired to keep going. If we are just kind of moving along and we're just kind of, and it's a grind, right? And there's no sense of accomplishment and there's no sense of goal, then the subconscious mind is like, well, I'm doing it, but I ain't getting nothing, right? I don't get an ice cream cone. I ain't getting laid, right? I'm not winning. You have to begin to send a message to your subconscious about what winning means. Because if you don't paint that picture for your subconscious mind, for your psyche, it will brand you a loser, and you'll feel bad, and you won't know why. You won't know why. So big vision, interim steps along the way, celebrating those steps along the way, collapsing time by not just spending time that's non-productive and working on things, right, that just tend to just go on and on and on, but really putting a boundary around time, so that it's time to start, it's time to stop. I've won, I'm almost there, I can come back tomorrow, right? But putting boundaries around time, I think, is really, really important in this era. So Journey Woman says, always feeling like I have to study. Oh, my goodness, that person sounds like me. Yeah, people always say to me, have you been following me around? Is this the Truman Show? Have you been following me around? Yeah, it's a human thing, y'all. So no shame in this game. But um, yeah, I was talking to somebody today about how, like, when you're in college, right, or in school, you just feel like studies never ends, and you can never do enough, right? So you always have a sense of not good enough, not good enough, not good enough. It's not complete. It's not. I can't. Right? It's not. And so again, I would say, Journey, with that situation, you want to put a boundary around time, set a timer of what's good enough, right? And also doing that compels you to perform better if you think about it. I knew a guy that he worked in his business 2 months on, he went balls to the walls, right? You know how you work before you're going to go on vacation, and all of a sudden you're a tornado of activity and accomplishment and completion because you gotta, right? So he'd be 2 months on, he'd run like a banshee, right? And then a month off where he got to dream and imagine and recover and rest, and then he'd get up and do it again. I used to always take the month of December off. I'm going to return to doing that. I would take a week out of every month off, usually around my menses. I would just take it off, right? So that I would have 3 weeks on, going hard, ovaries to the walls, right? And then off and dreaming and imagining and visioning, right? Because then when you come back to do the work, you're refreshed, you're energized, your head is clear, right? So really begin to think about how to use time differently. How do you and beware the predisposition to answer to the blur, to the blurriness, to the fuzziness. Whatever your goals are, they have interim and mid objectives. There are indicators that you are winning. There are indicators that you are off course. There are indicators that you have to pivot and course correct, right? But if you haven't mapped those out and those aren't terribly clear, that it can just seem like you are, just sort of running through life, Groundhog Day, day after day, with no real sense of accomplishment, no real sense of victory, and by the way, not just feeling that way, but actually having it be that way, because you have to be able to measure your accomplishments. And I would say that, as we've talked about in rooms before, like with Tobias, and if you're going to open up a business, and if you're going to get this credit thing handled so that you can invest, all of that, that's very It's binary. It's 1 zeros. Either it's done or it's not. Either you sent the letter or you didn't. Either you started the company or you didn't. Either you asked for the business or you didn't. It's very binary. And so begin to think about things in terms of how you are going to measure this journey. It says, I feel entirely too seen. Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Wake it up. Right. Right. And we've all been here. We've all been here. And so Tobias is saying, yes, meditation. Yeah, I do too. I clear my head and I I calibrate the day, right? So that when I attack things, right, and I approach things, I'm on and popping and I'm focused because it tends to move um faster when you do that, right? Those of you that have attended my toleration blitzes, right? We check it, we we it's like they're implementation intensive, so we take an inventory of all that we're tolerating, all that we put up with, all that we are avoiding, all that we are resisting, all of the hard conversations that we need to have, the spaces that need to be clean, the filing that has to be done, the garage that needs to be cleaned out, and we brain dump it and we get it out of our pretty little heads and onto paper where we can get some perspective on it, because as long as it's just sitting around your pretty little head, it shows up as overwhelm, shows up as overwhelm, right? So the way that you get distance from it, the way that you get control over it to get it onto paper, and then we just blitz, right? We just check in at the top of the hour, we blitz, and you get big things done. Because more energy and life force gets really spent squandering and worrying about it. You think about how much life force is spent on the incomplete, on the undone, right? On the unsaid and unspoken, right? And worrying about what happens as you're walking through that, walking through life like that. We spend a lot of life force there. So rather than do that, right, then you take all that, you get it on paper, and you move. You move. So I will take a pause here. See if there's any
And
questions. Yeah.
one thing that I do, I don't know if you guys, I spend a lot of time on the computer, doing credit repair, running the notary service, and the 15 other things that I'm supposed to be
Right.
backing out of doing. They got this thing called Subliminal Pro. You can actually get it on your phone, and I put
Yeah.
positive messages in there, and it's real
Yeah.
quick. You can't really see it, but you're flashing yourself. Like if I have goals as well too, I'll put that in there and kind of take time
Mm.
to redo that every now and then. Like if my goals change, I'll change some of the messages, and it works. It works
Yeah.
100%, especially coupled with the meditating.
Yeah. Because then your mind's clear. It's a clear channel, right, to receive what is being presented to it. Right.
Right. And
Yeah.
I think we don't realize how powerful what we watch, what we eat, the things that we listen to, even the music that you listen to. And I love all kind of music, but these things have a frequency. And I'm not saying
Yep.
not just stop listening to it. That's unreasonable. You're going to set yourself up for failure. But maybe try and be more conscious of what you're listening to and take a break from it and listen to something else or lighten the mood up. I used to really think that it was cheesy when people used to say when I was younger, yeah, you should listen to classical music. Now I see why a lot of
Yeah.
people that are in certain environments play that in the background as calming.
Yes.
It's especially while I'm working.
Yes. Absolutely. Or, I would say another thing is with in the era of screens, spend some time in silence, right? Drop that into your body, feel your heartbeat, feel your butt cheeks sitting on the chair, feel your feet, like drop in, right? We are often walking around as sort of walking, talking heads, right? All the energy is like focused in the head. We're thinking, we're grinding, we're planning, we're right. But we're worrying, we're fretting, right? We're thinking. I think thinking is totally overrated. I don't really spend a lot of time in thought anymore. I used to, but I spend a lot more time in just I'm not a channel because I have friends that are channels, but allowing what is for me to come through me. What's now, right? And so being in silence and hearing the noise of your thoughts and then letting them come to peace. Oh, Josh said, what's the name of that app, Tobias? The app? The Subliminal Pro, I think he said.
Yeah, Subliminal Pro. I'm typing it in for right now. That is one of the best tools I've ever had, and
You're you're
just
you're a
put it
little in
on
the
there like
matrix.
something
You're
just
you're a little in the matrix. Say it again, Tobias.
what about now?
Better, better, better. Yep, better, better.
Okay. Yeah, that app has helped me a lot. Especially you can do some experiments with yourself and pick a goal, and it's going to be funny because you're not going
Mm-hmm.
to realize that you did it until you think about it
Right,
one day.
right.
And sometimes when you ask for something, it doesn't come how you want it.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes,
Mm-hmm.
but it might not be exactly how you want it. Sometimes something will happen and you'll be like, oh, that's a bad thing. But then if you stay positive about it, you'll realize that you actually got what you wanted out of it or what you asked for. And it's real subtle.
Yeah,
People think that when you do the meditation and a lot of these techniques, that it's, we're used to watching TV, that it's going to be some sort of man that jumps out and says, hey, you passed, you did it. And that's not how it
right,
works. It's real subtle
right.
and you got to be consistent.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and that app, Tobias, you're saying that it you can barely see, it's below, it flashes on the screen, so it's I know what the technology is. It's sort of below your conscious perception, right? That's
Yes.
how that works. Is that you barely register it,
Yep.
right? And when you do that, it's actually more, it penetrates the subconscious even more deeply, right? That's why hypnosis works, right? That's why commercials work, right? Because it penetrates the mind when it's just below the conscious perception, because most of your awareness is actually hanging out below conscious perception. It's hanging out in the subconscious, the unconscious, right? So yeah, that sounds like a really great thing. And you're right, it is subtle. And I think what, to point to what Tobias said. Oh, it's Subliminal Pro, Jen and Ja. Subliminal Pro on both apps, both platforms, iPhone and Droid.
And I'm not sure, but you should be able to download it on your computer too.
Okay. Okay. That's great. That's great.
So
And you're
that's
right, Tobias, so much about the subtlety of understanding when you're manifesting, right? And you know, ma- when you really unlock your capacity to manifest and think things into cause realities, reality creation, right? When you really harness into the, it's a um it's a field, right? You pull things from the field, right? And when you're manifesting, it is absolutely true. It's a bias. I love that you said this. Is things may present themselves in ways that you didn't intend, and part of our job when things are arriving that we have called in, but the circumstances may go a little bit left or seem a little glitchy or seem like that it shouldn't go that way. Often, if we could just stay in great emotional equilibrium, right, then we find, right, we can jack it up with our frustration or with our anger or with our charge or with our, right, we could jack it up, we can jack up the energy. But if we can stay calm and allow, right, allow our creation to come to us, but that means keeping your emotional state on the steady, right, keeping it steady, so that you can notice the small subtle things that show up, right, that are presenting to you the pathway to that outcome. And then Jen says, I've always felt like I was in plan mode. Then I found a system that works as well as utilize less time. And then your anxiety decreases, right? Right. We burn a lot of fuel on anxiousness and anticipation and grinding, and right. But when we can just drop in, vision very intensely, right? Notice the nuances, walk the path, life gets a lot better. Cool. What else? Who else? Any thoughts or questions or anything about this topic? You can come on up if you like. Tobias, any thoughts that you have?
Yeah, I want to kind of relate it to like your goals that are going to be coming up. You're going to be seeing a lot of fear mongering. Everybody's going to be scared, just like the COVID thing. They ran everybody, I mean, ragged. It was real, but people were terrified. I've actually went on notaries to do like home loan signings, and people had like the full on hazmat gear. Like it really terrified people, like the
Yeah.
world was in. And that's something that fear is it causes procrastination, fear
Yep.
of the unknown, and it causes you to freeze. It's
Yep.
not a good time to be frozen. This is a time to start planning and be really aware of your surroundings and what's going on in the world. And I would suggest, like I tell everybody, get your news and from more than one source right now. Um, Especially, I like looking at other countries' news and kind of balancing what's going on so you can kind of see where you're going to move at. And during this next crash, it's going to be really bad with like worldwide with all the fighting and stuff that's already happening. You seen what they did with Trump. Not to be in politics, I don't care either way, but that's something that was unprecedented of what happened. And you see the infighting amongst the elite. You know, it's a reshuffling going on all around the world, of power, basically. All of these rich families that have been around since the East Indian Trading Company is really running everything. The governments are just kind of figureheads. But the shipping supply lanes are changing. They're fighting over that. That's trillions of dollars a year. So whoever can land anything solid for the next 100 years for their family, they're fighting for that. So being well planned and having yourself at least a 2 to 5 year plan to start. I don't think people realize in other countries like China, for instance, you have to have a 400-year business plan to open up a corporation. So we here don't even plan out for 2 to 5 years. Even if it's something that you have to adjust, you need to sit with for a while. Just get yourself an outline of a plan and stick to it. Meditate on it. Think about it in your free time. Take yourself 30 minutes a day and just sit down and go over your plans. And then another powerful thing that one of my mentors taught me in business credit is every day get up and do something you don't want to do, and that'll shorten your list. So he said, pick the one thing that you're dreading to do, even if it's something personal like taking a walk, um, getting on the treadmill, going to the gym, whatever it is that you don't want to do the most, make sure you do that thing first. And that will you'll start knocking down your procrastination and become more efficient in how you're handling your business. Because it's not only, we talk about credit and all of that stuff, we get lost in in that a little bit sometimes, but you're the one that's executing all of that. So if your mind and your body is not on the same page, you're not going to be very efficient at whatever you do. So take the time for yourself before you get started with your day, and especially at the end of the day before you go to sleep. Make sure to be conscious of what you're watching, what's on TV. If there's, try to find yourself a quiet place for 30 minutes to kind of go over what you're going to be doing that day. If you got any questions that you want to ask yourself, you're getting your answers in a dream. And if you can learn how to interpret your dreams, like keeping a dream log. I don't know, has anybody really had a lucid dream or anything and had a question answered? If you sit down, wake up, if you have a dream like that where it seemed really so real, do not open your eyes at first. Sit there for a while and you'll hold on to that and you'll be able to bring some of that back. But it's like when you open your eyes, you're up. But if you can sit there for a minute, slowly wake yourself up, you'll bring some of those answers with you. And the more and more you do that, you'll start realizing that, hey, I'm kind of answering my own questions. That's your subconscious answering it for you. And you'll
Hmm.
start having a lot of deja vu as well.
Hmm. It's interesting because we're in the Lions Gate right now, right? We're 8/8, yes, was yesterday. And so we are entering sort of a new portal of energy, right? They keep saying the timelines are changing, the planetary timelines are changing. And so, as of yesterday, actually, there's a quickening, there's an acceleration. They figured out that the time's moving faster. it's everything's going faster, so you got to go faster. But in a way, when you're talking about what Tobias says in terms of the meditation and getting the clarity, or even doing hypnosis or doing the subliminals, and you get that vision lit up, it's kind of strange. I find that in times of great chaos, right, and in times of great sort of energetic quickening on the planet, um, you actually have a clearer shot. You know how they say you can get stuff done in the fog of war, right? Because everybody's sort of running around with their like a chicken with their head cut off, right? So in the fog of war, your intent actually has a great clear shot if you use your intent correctly. I've talked to you guys about how my boyfriend Jomo used to sell satellites to governments, presidents, and ooh, child, that he was trained by the CIA, and so that's some craziness, right? Poor baby's a little PTSD because it was a lot, even for a strong boy like him, man. But what the reason they had him on all of these crazy ass, and Almaz knows this too because she's done some wild west stuff out there in the world. They'd send him, if they were, needed to make a drop of something so that they could get something in, and maybe war was going to be breaking out, right? Um, then, uh, then they'd send him where everybody's running out. They'd send him running in the fog of war, right? So he'd be going towards the drama and trauma, right? And everybody else would be running away, right? But that's just and I think of that often because it's the same way with your intent in all this chaos, right, in the fog of war, right, you can actually run towards the objective. So tuning your mind to be highly focused on that vision is really job one. It's really job one. And to use the power of your focus to not focus on the current reality, but focus on the vision. And to Tobias's point, especially for those of you that are going to do, the credit stuff with him, um, that is a sort of it's what would you call it, Tobias? It's mechanical, right? It's paperwork. You got to send the letter. You got to send the letter. You got to right. You got to respond. You got to follow up. You got to track it. You got to stay on top of it. No blurriness allowed, right? No blurriness allowed. So if you're going to do that, and everything about setting up a company or starting a business, right? There's a lot of detail and minutia, and that goes into all of it. So to have that level of focus and to have that level of agility, right? It really matters on what you focus on.
Yep, and it just takes time, and that's how they wear you
Yeah.
down. It was a interesting statistic that I read one time. 85% of people don't answer debt collection letters or show up to court. So if I'm winning 85% of the time, that's the only reason that they keep going so hard with the letters. But if you know the steps and you can set it up right and you know how to build them so you can take them to court, things start falling off. You'll be surprised when they send you outside when you first get to court. I don't know how many of you have done this, but before you actually even go in anywhere, they send you outside to see can you work it out before you come in and go to court. And a lot of times either they don't show up or they'll settle. Now it just depends, some people don't want to settle, but I say take the money if it's worth it and move on with your life. But sometimes you really got stung bad or you want to try something. They got people who take it a little bit further. It's a lifestyle for some people. It's a lifestyle for me, but they got people that purposely set it up to where they're juicing their cars and getting themselves in debt so they can make money in court. I know it sounds crazy, but they got people who love law that much that then that's how they work their system. Personally, me, I want to clean it up one time and get on down the street.
Right. Right.
So, but we have someone up here who raised their hand. I think it's Jenny. Jenny
Yeah.
Jen.
Hey, Jen.
Hello.
Hey
Hello.
there.
Hi.
Hey,
I
beauty.
wanted to I wanted to go back to in regards to consciousness. Is there a fight for the consciousness? This is why there's so many distractions, and so now we have to concentrate on creating our own reality because I feel like when I look at the news, I don't watch the news, but if I'm in proximity of it, I feel like it spins me away from the reality that I'm creating.
Yeah,
It's a war for your attention, right? Because the most valuable currency is an attention economy. The most valuable currency is attention, right? That's why all the distraction. That's why the screens. That's why all the and it certainly amped up in COVID, right? Because everybody's sitting in front of screens, so their attention gets hijacked. So yes, there is a war for attention. I think in the era of technology, it's only amplified. So it's being very mindful of what you attend to. And I would say that if you could spend, think about it, just try. I would challenge you to try this even tomorrow. Like that vision that we just, lit up a little bit here, right? See if you can keep that sort of top of mind as you move through your day tomorrow, right? Focus on the outcome. For anything that you do, focus on seeing it done and complete, right? Rather than whatever else you're focusing on, right? But see it complete. So yeah, Jen, there is a great war for attention. So how do you manage that, Jen?
Well, how I manage that is utilizing meditation. I
Mm-hmm.
do not, I don't, it's been years. I don't watch the news, as well as when I've noticed that conversations are moving towards all of the fear mongering or whatever is going on. I try to take myself out of it, out of the conversation, or move away from it physically,
Mm-hmm.
because I really do feel this pulling, um trying to take trying to control my consciousness and not allow me to create the reality that I want. So I also do think that because people are listening to this stuff all the time, is that we keep that it's being created. It's very interesting now that it's moving on to some other disease going on right now. But it's just very interesting how there's this momentum building up to getting people afraid of what's going on, and then it manifests in reality. So I just think we're kind of creating all of this.
Yes. Yeah, but think about the power of knowing that, right? So if you know it's a big co-creation, right? Because it's all just a big co-creation, and your intent and focus is and vision is stronger than what is being fed to you. Think about how absolutely powerful that is. You are a co-creator, and the only way they hijack your shit, right, is to hijack your attention and your focus and your emotions and your fear, right, and how you use your nervous system. So um you are a co-creation. They are not more powerful than you are. You're just being fed something that makes you weaker than you think you are. But with simply your focus, right, it can become um, you can get control of your own reality more and more and more.
and I'll tell you something from doing music. I had a contract with Disney when I was younger, and we recorded with DJ Quick, Raphael Sadiq, all of that. And I started writing when I was
Did not
12
did
years
not
old.
know that. Did not know that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm quiet about it. It's a long story. I'll get on and tell you guys some stories one day. I had a lot of fun, learned a lot of lessons. But I don't know if you guys ever like seen Jay-Z when he zones out when he's writing. If you guys go on YouTube, you can look out. I can do that. And I didn't realize that was a gift like he didn't. And it's almost like I used to go sit in the car, and I didn't realize that that's why meditating became so easy for me when I learned how to do it. I was like, oh, I was already doing that. I would sit in the car, and it'll be nothing. The music would just be playing, and then it's like the words start raining. I mean, I can write 50 songs, and it's funny to tap into that as a musician. When people say I don't know how I did it or I just come up with it, everything slows down, everything gets quiet. It's the I wish everybody could experience that as an art form, because that really helps you meditate. And when I meditate, I try to sit there. If I'm focusing on a goal, sometimes I just clear my mind and just let all the thoughts run out and not interact with them. I don't try to stop them. I try a few different things, but the most effective thing for me is to sit quiet and not force it, but just don't think for a second and clear your slate like wiping a whiteboard. And then I'll say my goal out loud for the day, and then I'll get on the business. And you don't have to sit there and get in any special position. You can. There's arts to that, and I'm sure Veronica knows about all of that a lot more than I do. But just the action of sitting and being still is so valuable. And even like if you're nervous about doing something like even credit letters, my first time I went to court, I was shaking like a leaf. And I wish I would have known that now because it went so fast that I was like, I didn't get a chance to even present all the things that I had all these ideas and stuff written down. I was in and out of there in 2 or 3 minutes. I didn't even get a chance to get it off. And they know that. They set these things up because they know we don't do that practice anymore. Our ancestors did know about it, but we don't. And it's time to get back into some of that for some of us, and it helps us get along. Things are moving so fast. Just think about it from when you were a child, how fast the world's moving now, and it's getting faster every day. When is the time for you to actually slow down and stop? Just like the Matrix when they stopped the program, when the lady walked by in the red dress and he stopped the program. We don't stop the program. The only way you can reprogram yourself is to stop the program, fix it, and restart it. It's a good, healthy practice. I promote that. All of my friends that are millionaires, they all do it. And when I start doing it, I made a lot more money. I start being able to have more success. Things start falling my way. $1 million accounts. You know, just focusing on it and envisioning myself doing it before it was done.
Yeah, no, I love that. And if you think about it, we're talking about businesses, all sales, right, are conversations of influence. All negotiations are conversations of influence. You have to be present. Like right now, I'm doing pretty big asks, $100,000 to work with me, right? And also other funding, right? So you got to be in your body when you're pitching. You got to be in your body, right? Like Tobias said, if he was in court, he would have done better if he would sort of in his body, not up in his head, not in his fear. So all of the ways that you move these days, you really have to be so present. You got to really, Tobias said, you got to stop the program and slow it all down.
And then it's very, very important, especially in just success in life. We all know we love them, whether they're family or friends. You have toxic people around you, male, female, whatever. If people who aren't serving you, you have to slide them to the side. Not that you're gonna not ever talk to them or hate them for that, but once you get yourself in a certain space, if you want things to continue to change or change things, you have to get certain people away from you. The energy that they're bringing, you know the people I'm talking about. They always call you with a problem. Such and such is at work. She said this, he said that, and I did this. Nothing productive, just all toxic. You got to get people away from that. Unhappy people will bring negativity to you. And, we want to try and fix people. Sometimes it's not everybody's turn to be fixed. Fix yourself first. Then that negativity tends to not hurt you as much. But if you're trying to pull the whole ship up by yourself and everybody's jumping on your shoulders, you're never going to be able to stand up. So sometimes you have to take time to do you and keep the positive people in your life that are working on the things that you're working on around you and surround you with positive energy and love. If you don't have that, it can be very difficult to even get things started. And you'll be trying to figure out, like, man, what is it? Why did I have this negative vibe on me? You can feel it when you walk into a room. Like if you've ever walked into a room and somebody's been arguing, it's like thick, it's in the air. Versus when you walk in and everybody's in laughter and having fun. Start being conscious and recognizing that amongst people. And a lot of times somebody's going through something, you can ask them if you want to help them. But I wouldn't spend too much time doing that necessarily, because then you get into help, trying to help everybody instead of getting your things together and in line, because that's the best help for them, is for you to be in line. And if they are a loved one or somebody close to you, now you have more time and you have an example of what you've done to help them. Because it's hard to, life happens to people and you get stuck in this loop of negativity, and it's hard to break away from that. And I've had friends, I got good friends that I don't hang out with all the time, just because of the conversation. And you'll start noticing you won't want to talk about that. Like, I like football, I love sports, I play uh, on a high level and all of that stuff, but I'm into it because of my kids, but I'm not into it like I used to be. Like, Sunday used to be everything for me. Shut everything down, pull out the barbecue ribs and all of that. And I'll do it every now and then for fun. But if I have something to do, or I got a goal or a project that I'm working on, yeah, football, I'll catch the highlights on ESPN or whatever, and I'm good. If that. But I don't dedicate my energy to being a fan, a fanatic. That's what fan is short for, a fanatic of something. So, kind of, and it helps just overall in your life period, excluding business and credit and all the other things that we have our mindset on. It helps a whole bunch to recognize where you're at, and your energy level and your practices on what's good for you, because what may be good for you may not be good for somebody else that's close around you, and they'll try to keep you in that loop because they're feeding on that. Toxic people feed on negative energy. They need it to survive, and they may not realize they're doing it. They got stuff that they got to clear out. That trauma bond, you got to, push all of that stuff away. And it's difficult for you because you may not realize that you're affected by something, or you think that you got over something and you didn't. You haven't dealt with it. But if you're conscious of when it comes up, to say, "Oh, okay, I feel this way because this issue again," then that'll trigger you to
Hmm.
start sitting down and saying, okay, let me stop and work on this. Let me meditate on this and make sure I do some more work on this particular thing, because it's a trigger. And that's helped me a lot, just in business, in life in general, even with
Hmm.
my kids. Like, it's made me a better parent, father, husband, to recognize that about myself. Like, I know my triggers. I know not to set myself up to be triggered as best that I can.
Right. Right. Yeah, and it's good that you have that awareness. I mean, some patterns are sort of below the level of conscious awareness, right? That's where sort of I come in and kind of hack those. The other thing, and I don't think I've ever said this here, but it's coming up now. I was talking to somebody the other day, and one of the things that we do in the Akashic, right? What we can see in the Akashic when I do Akashic analysis, and for those of you that don't know, the Akashic library is sort of the library of all things that have ever happened in the history of all souls. So that's a big ass library. It's everything that's ever happened, all of the, and what it really speaks to is how are we living our divinity, right? We all come from source. Whatever your lens on that is, by the way, it's kind of agnostic. Akasha is really about the architecture of spirit and soul, and not necessarily any ideology, right? That's why it's very neutral. We just read for the architecture. And, some souls are negative, some souls are draconian, some souls come from the planet Draco, right? And they're here. And some souls have so much damage to them, right? And by the way, the damage that they've accrued is over lifetimes and incarnations, right? And they come here and they cause a lot of chaos. They cause a lot of drama. It presents as mental illness, but oftentimes it's a soul issue. So if you've got people, and those people will never change, right? So if you've got people where it's just always some distortion, it's always drama, it's always lag and drag, right? There could be a very profound soul issue there too. So I don't think in this era and time that we have the luxury of entertaining anything that stops our path, because it's just friction. Like people, have ever been in a relationship with somebody and you argue with them and you argue with them and you stay in a loop and you stay in a loop and you never solve it, it never goes anywhere? Anybody that you are even remotely engaged in anything like that with needs to be loved at a distance. carried forward a distance, because you don't have it. You need all your life force in this moment in time to have the kind of focus and intent that Tobias and I are talking about. So, um, Dominique says, would love to hear more about the Lionsgate. Yes, it's mainstream. Yeah, it's we're in it. We're at the peak of it. I think it starts on, I want to say it's every year, and it starts July 28th and August 12th. It peaks on 8/8, right? So August 8th, which is 8/8. So it takes place when the sun is in Leo, the Earth, Orion's belt, and the star Sirius are lined up. It's like a gate, and people consider it a portal. And so very often with Lionsgate, right, there tends to be a flood of abundance and positivity and uplifting energy here on the planet, right? So set your intentions over the next 4 days till the gate closes on the 12th, right? But be very intentional and focus on what you want, focus on the vision, focus on what you must create. But yeah, that's the Lionsgate.
And
Okay,
if any of
cool.
you guys are, I don't know if you're, some people are in the city and they can't get a real good look at it. It's a lot of meteor showers out at night. If you're in a country town or you got a good vision of the sky, it's I'm actually taking my kids out. My son is all into this meteor showers, and I don't know how he got to it. I don't question it. I just support it. He's 6. So he wants to look at the meteor showers. So I think the 12th and the 13th in our area, between now and then, but it's going to be picking up. But I took him out and let him see some stuff yesterday, and it was pretty cool. So if you guys want to go out and check that out, that's something that may be fun. Or go meditate outside and look at the stars. Nobody looks up anymore. Everybody's in their phone. Take some time to look up. Enjoy the scenery.
Yeah, yeah. Dominique says, yeah, yesterday was really lucky for you. Yeah, the energy was moving good yesterday. Yeah, and Journey posted a link in the chat. Yeah, this is the time, man. This is it. It's countdown. We're in countdown mode. So I think let's see, we're middle of August, so September, October, November, December, January, February. Tobias, you're thinking February or March, no later than March of 2023. So we're
Yeah,
like
I say
we're about 6 months out.
you're gonna start feeling it around January. They're gonna start. Really, what's gonna happen is they're gonna try and fix something up for Christmas, and it's gonna be terrible, and that's where the panic is gonna start in January. And then from
Hmm.
there, it's gonna be kind of up and down, but more on the downtrend the whole year, and then till they back off the pedal. And I'll come on and let everybody know because I keep up with all the inflationary reports, the CPI reports, the labor reports. Even though they fudge the numbers, I get up every morning at 4 and look at stocks and all of that stuff just to know what the rates are and everything. And I'll kind of come out and start giving everybody a heads up when I think they're going to U-turn. But for the foreseeable future, they have to crash it. I mean, gas is at $6 a gallon out here in California, $6 plus. Veronica's probably got it worse than me. She's in a bigger city. So it's they have to do it, but knowing is half the battle. So if you're prepared to know that they're going to do that, believe it or not, a lot of people aren't privy to the information, and the people that you guys know just in here in this room, they don't know about inflation. They're just getting up every day and going through the motions. And those are the people that are going to get hit real hard. So if you got some sort of plan that you're trying to put together, um, I would press the gas on it. Even if you got to get some assistance from somebody, do your due diligence, however you need to do it. Get your goals set and start working on them diligently every day. And I know we're all busy and we're tired, and the kids and the husband and the wife. Take time to do that, especially if you got a significant other. If you guys can get on the same page, that's double trouble. So I know my wife helps me out tremendously. So it's things that, we give and take. She has her own businesses that she runs. I have mine, but we make it work around the kids. The kids are first. So I don't know how we do it sometimes, but it works. And we stay positive about it, even when, things happen. We've had a lot of people pass on, close grandmothers, uncles. I lost a brother and a sister, and we've made it
Right.
through this whole thing just in the last 2 or 3 years. She lost her grandmother. So, it's hard to stay focused with all of that stuff going on, but you got to kind of maintain the ship. And a lot of that is, meditating and communicating. And especially, when I get frustrated, I'm vocal about it now. Whereas before, I used to hold that in, and I noticed that that was affecting my work. It was affecting me getting my credit fixed. It was affecting me doing simple tasks because my energy was zapped. I would
Because you're
literally
congested.
sit
You're all
and
congested. You're congested with all the noise, right?
yeah, and I had to figure out a way around that. And I started real small, intermediate goals, like Veronica said, getting up and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna sit here for 30 minutes." Just even that little small thing made me feel like I accomplished something and start my day off right. If I get up and I'm not feeling right, I address that. What has me not feeling like I don't want to do anything today?
Right. There's another tool I want to make available to you. It's the least expensive way to sort of engage, my work. But I put my heart, soul, and body and mind into this program. It's my love letter to the Black community. The Black Mastery Program. It's a hypnosis program. It's over at blackmastery.com. It has everything from powerful belief change scripts to parts integrations exercises. It has it has a daily commitment track. It has a 9-minute track on there that if you get up every day, you listen to it and it programs and it sets your day. You visualize your day in advance. That's a $97 program. It's got a ton of extra bonuses. It's got interviews with Randall Pinkett and Iamla Van Zant and Dr. Dennis Kimbrough. It's got all kinds of goal setting. It's got a goal setting workshop in it. So if you've wanted to work with me and money has felt funny, it's 97 bucks. It's over at blackmastery.com, and that's a game changer. We put in tonalities with a dear colleague and client of mine, Toby Wright, who's a Grammy Award winning producer, and he designed custom healing tonalities, right, that go in music. We mastered that music. We went into the studio and mastered every element of it. He's a guy that I also called up when we did the trauma, the tomes, the tonalities that we did for the grief. Some of you have the grief hypnosis, but underneath that, the reason that that thing works so tough, right, is because Toby went in and engineered a tonality that was designed to break up the grief. Well, that same music, that same quality and design of music is also in the Black Mastery program. I put my foot in that thing. So it's 97 bucks. If you want to go get that, go get that. Also, next Friday, I'm going to be doing what's called the Toleration Blitz. So I typically hold that for my private clients. Um, it runs from 8 to 3:30 Pacific, whatever that is in the time zone translation. Um, it's a really simple, powerful process. All the things you've been putting off, tolerating, all the things that have been merging together, the hard conversations, logistical moves that you need to make. You take an inventory of it, and you come and you knock it out at the blitz. But you do it in community, and we move mountains. There's something about the way that we collectively organize and move through it together in community that's very powerful. So if you want to come, you're not a private client of mine, and you want to come attend that next Friday, hit me up on the back channel, and we can get you into that and get some real momentum happening. Because I think, you know, what Tobias was saying earlier, and I want to really underline it. It's about having that space and that peace, but it's also about having momentum. I don't think we often get enough momentum towards our goals, toward the trajectory of our goals, right? We don't often leap, right? You can leap a tall building in a single bound, right? With great focus and intent and vision, and a vision to flip in your nervous system. But we don't often have sustained momentum where we're working towards a goal and we're not just start, stop, start, stop, but we're really moving consistently and with great power towards that outcome. And I don't think you have to work a lot, but I do think when you do move, you have to move in momentum. So Toleration Blitz is about momentum. Black Mastery is about getting momentum, clearing out all the clutter, really profound belief work that we do in the Black Mastery program. So there are resources out here to get yourself into momentum, because if you think about it, if you're in motion, right? If you're in motion, I can course, like when I work with you, I can course correct you if you're in motion, right? An object in motion tends to stay in motion. An object at rest tends to stay at rest. So if you get up and you get moving and you have some momentum and you have some consistency, right, we can continue to course correct and tweak. When you are at a standstill, right, then you got to get the vehicle of your life and body and mind up and moving and directed towards the trajectory, towards the outcome. So it's really important that you pick that vision, that outcome, and then you stay in momentum towards it. Some of the tools that I have are designed for that. And Journey says, do you mean specific kinds of plans or in general? Whatever your goals are, Journey. And we've been sort of framing things more recently since Tobias has been on the scene in terms of really trying to get some big plans happening by next year. So when and there's a replay somewhere floating around, I think under my profile, under Tobias's profile, we did a couple of weeks ago talking about weaponizing your credit, right? And getting your credit cleaned up so that you can do your personal credit cleaned up, so that you can then do corporate credit if you need to, so that then you could get lines of credit and you could be in what's called a paper by this time next year, by the first quarter, second quarter of next year, so that because what's going to happen when they start, when Tobias calls it the U-turn, everything's going to freeze and resources are going to be more scarce and food supply is going to be slower. And somebody in the chat talked about water shortages and all that. You want to be very liquid. You want to be liquid. You want to be financially liquid. You want to have money and credit at your hand, at your disposal. And so when we did the room with Tobias, I'm not sure if you were there, Journey. We laid out sort of a clear roadmap. In about 6 months, 6 to 8 months, you can, if your credit's all jacked up, you can get that handled. Then you can flip that to a company and corporate credit. You can get that handled. And then if you want to do some bigger stuff with trust, you can get that handled. And you got this window. It's between that. It really starts now, so that you'll have access to more resources and capital before they turn the faucet off. Is that a fair way to put it, Tobias?
That is a very fair way to put it. And I'll give everybody a little trick so they know next time that this happens, because it happens every 10 to 15 years. This is a cycle. Um, when the CEOs start retiring, I don't know if anybody paid attention in 2020 and 2021, we had the most CEOs retire in the history of business. Everybody was taking their money, selling their stocks, and running, while everybody was FOMOing into the market, the real estate. If they sold, so what they're doing now, they took their profit. They're going to sit down and wait until everything goes back down and it's cheap, and they're going to buy everything. We just get stuck on the wrong cycle. So while they're buying everything, we don't have our credit straight. We don't have our businesses set up. We're not registered to do business with the government and get government contracts. We don't have our minority business certification. We don't know about hub zones. We don't have any of that set up. We don't have a trust so that we can limit our tax exposure. Then you mirror that on the other side. We got a whole nother thing that I'm just trying to get people to get to the trust part so I can show you guys how to do the foundations and stuff overseas. There's more than just banks here. There's banks all across the world. You can buy a bank and you may not be able to do business in America, but I can do business everywhere else. They got money, they got a financial fiat currency system. And then another big thing I'm getting, and I want to cover this, everybody is worried about the currency changing. It's already changed. You're already under a global currency. It's the dollar. We just don't feel it here because we're living here. But when oil is the main vein of everything, and this is my personal opinion of what the fight is over. The oil, the countries that are profiting off of oil are having a problem with solar coming in, especially in the Middle East. That's where all this fighting started in the 90s and everything, because the system was getting ready to change. So if I've been sitting here for the last 30 years making billions of dollars a day off of oil, I don't want to see oil go away. and they weren't smart enough over there to go into solar. They're in the middle of a desert. The sun is everywhere. They didn't, they had the same problem we have here. Their leaders misspent, misled the public, and were partying basically the whole time for the last 30 years. Now something got to get done. They're behind the curve, and the dollar is the only way that you can exchange oil. Every country uses it. What doesn't have oil in it? You got oil in plastic, cars, motor oil, gas, metal. All of that's getting ready to change. That's what the real problem is, and it's causing a power struggle between countries. Now everybody's, this is about resources. Remember that everything that you have here is sourced from somewhere else and put together. I think it was Billy Carson. I don't know if you guys are familiar with him. If you're not, look him up. He has some great information. But he was talking about cataclysms and how, everybody was trying to figure out, how do we lose all of this ancient information? I mean, we can't rebuild the pyramid. What happened to everything? And he said, well, if we had a cataclysm, and the cell phones, right, that we got, that we're talking on and communicating on now, the network, the cables, the satellites, if all of that went down, who's going to rebuild it? I don't know how to I don't know how to go get the material to build a cell phone and make it work, and build a satellite and shoot it up there. That stuff happened over a large period of time. This is how the information got lost. So that's getting ready to happen again soon if we start fighting. You see what I'm saying? And that's what the scary part is about it. I don't think that anybody's stupid enough, because we got nuclear bombs and everything. I think that's all fear mongering, because they got to live somewhere too. There, if you got $1 billion, you're not going to want to see a nuke go up in the air. That's just my opinion. Um, but I think we need to be cognizant of what's coming, because they're going to manipulate stuff and have their little frits and frats and everything. And you feel like it doesn't affect you, but you not being prepared to take the opportunity that's coming with that while they're doing that is going to set you on the wrong cycle. You got to get out of this loop. You got to take a chance. And you might not win. You might, I've lost a lot of money doing research. I've got scammed. That's why we try to offer some, products at a decent price that we can actually do. If you actually go look up financial, um special, I lost the word just now. If you look up asset protection, go look up how much asset protection costs. That's what we're providing you. Everything that we got was written up by attorneys, where we've been using it. I can show you the bank account, my trust bank accounts that I got set up. It's not anything. They make it seem so, oh, you do this, you got to trust, and it's all this big thing. That's a bunch of hoopla. It's, if you set it up and we give you a strategy, that's the part that's missing. I can have a 800 credit score and $5 billion worth of credit and not know what to do with it. It's just like I have nothing. But if you have a strategy, that changes things. If you know how to leverage, if somebody can say, hey, let me skip you by, 2, 3 years worth of study trying to do it on your own, and do this. And then we teach you as you go along. I don't want people to just, I fix your credit, you pay me and you're gone. I want you to stick around, because now I know your system is set up right. Hey, take a look over here. You might want to go get a laundromat. It might only bring you $2,000 to $3,000 a month, but it's passive income. Hire your nephew or hire somebody to go pick it up as a part-time job. Clean the laundry room. You got a free $1,500. If you get two or three of those, now you got $4,500 in passive income. You can do all of that off of credit. If you have nothing at all, it might take you some time. You might have to be patient. There's things that we can show you to to put you in those positions to make that type of income. Everybody wants to go to the top of the mountain right away. It's a slow walk, but boy, when you get up there, you start realizing, hey, I got 4 or 5 businesses that are yielding me, 3,500, 2,500. Now I put all of that in a trust and I go to the bank. I can get non-taxable loan money. They can't tax a loan. So as long as your businesses that you have set up cover your your loan amount, your loan payment, yeah, you're good. You can go put that $1 million in your pocket and live. I'm not saying to go crazy, but if I got $1 million and I can break that up for the next 5 years and do my budget and figure out, okay, this is what our goals are. This is what our income is, and this is how much we have to spend. You can even give yourself a little bit of discretionary spending, $1,000, $1,500 a month. If you're married, hey, let's split this down. This is just $750, $1,000 for you to go do whatever, your nails, your get a massage. You go do you. This is your time. But all of our bills are taken care of, and we're investing that money back into our system, our trust, whatever system we have set up. And people don't realize that if you have it in a trust, right, your businesses, it changes the dynamics of your taxes. Yeah, you are paying taxes on the business, but if the trust, if everything's being left for your beneficiaries, then everything that the trust spends on managing those businesses, the payroll, the orders, the employees, you get all of that back in a write off. And you can still take it and go get the money at the bank. It's three steps. It's your personal credit, your business credit, and a trust. That's the first three steps. If you do that, you will be financially free. I don't care how long it takes you to set it up and get it, whether you do it on your own, whether you go with us or you go with someone else. I urge people to slow down and to listen to what I'm saying. They're charging 50 to $100,000 for something that we're giving away for $6,000 to $7,000, and I'm only doing that for a limited time because I want to get people in to what I've experienced using it, and to say, hey, I've went out and paid CPAs and all these programs and stuff to learn this stuff, and then you realize that, oh man, you know, you could figure out how to at least get somebody here, but we don't have that in our community, and the people that do know about it, they're not going to tell you. So I might catch flack for a little bit for saying it, but forget it. There's no reason not to share some of this information. Some of this is really just stuff that we haven't been taught, and age doesn't matter. I learned stuff. I got a nephew that is a bad mofo. He is cold, and he grew up. He just happened to always be around when we were studying, and he is cold. And Veronica knows him, Allery.
Right.
He
Yes,
is
yes.
something else. He's better than me, and I'm proud of that. I am so proud that he's at that level. He has his credit repair company shirts. I mean, the guy is dynamic, and his mind from all the studying and getting it younger than we got without having to bump our head. Man, he's off and flying, and it's beautiful.
No, I love it. Somebody's asking in the chat, Tobias, can this work for Canadians? I think Ja asked that last time too. And I think you had a workaround for that for
Yeah,
people that are in Canada.
yeah. Well, Canada's system is set up similar to the United States. I personally haven't had a Canadian client, but if they want to hit me in the back channel, I would be more than happy to work on doing that. That would be interesting. I just have to learn your system. It's just a different acronym. And you can do something like that over here using virtual addresses and everything. And remember, you can open up a corporation and be foreign to the United States. So you can do business here, but you do have to figure out a way to establish a credit profile. I would be interested in picking that up. I just haven't had anybody approach me about it. So maybe we can sit down and run a test study on it and come up with something. I'm pretty sure I can do it.
Yeah, I think there's
England,
there's two Canadians that I know of in this room, Ja and then Tana Sue, if I'm saying that right. That are, and there may be more, but yeah, there's a couple Canadians in here, and there's
yeah,
another Canadian actually that's a client of mine, that also would probably be interested. So yeah, maybe there's a Canadian cohort.
yeah. I'll be willing to get maybe set up a group and let's just sit down and I'll sit down and do the research and study your system. It can't be that much different. Australia, the UK, here in Canada, that's all the same system for sure. I know acronyms are different, maybe a little bit different rules, but Yeah, pretty much the same system. Anywhere with a central bank.
Awesome. Okay. Any last thoughts or questions or Josh says I'm down to be experimented on. Yeah. Yeah. I know that some systems are different and adjacent and um because I have a client that's starting that has a business in Canada and you know there's some distinctions in terms of like payment processing and the way certain things work, but you're right, it's probably mostly acronyms. Good, Tennessee too. Good. All right. You guys hit up Tobias on the back channel. Anyone else? And then Tobias, the link to your website is up at the top. Is that true? Did you pin that to the top?
Yeah, I pinned it up there. I'm still learning. You guys will bear with me on the Clubhouse. I'm still new to it, but I've been studying that too. But it should be pinned up there. If you guys want to go check it out and set up a free consultation, I'll be more than happy to do a credit analysis and see where you got. But only if you're serious, because we're really busy. And I know sometimes you may be just checking, but yeah, you are going to have to pay for my time. I sit out and I leave my family to go do this stuff, and I work really hard, and I've helped a lot of people get to where they're going. So if you're really serious about your future, hit me up.
Yeah. And if you want to get some momentum, come back channel me about this toleration blitz next Friday. We'll do a little toleration blitzing, and then also get the Black Mastery program. That is a deep hypnosis program, and it'll discharge some of that fear and angst and stuff that you have running around your head. Get you in
Hey, how you
motion.
doing, Mr. Vincent? I see you there.
How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Good to hear your voice.
Listen, I've been attempting to reach out to you. I left a couple of messages and I didn't get any response. So, um, how can I need a number where I can get in contact with you directly?
I'll hit me in the back channel and I'll hit you. I saw it, Vince, and that's my fault. I've been like super busy, and I got a list of people I have to call back, but I will call you. I'll call you after this.
Okay, sounds good. Appreciate it.
All right, love you, brother. Good talking to you.
You too now.
Catch up.
Cool. Anything else? Any thoughts, questions, concerns, pushback, considerations before we bring it to a close for this evening?
This has been great, and I'm just wondering if you'll be able to do it again and touch bases again.
Yeah, Tobias, are you doing regular rooms? I know Tobias is somewhat new to Clubhouse, but are you've done a couple of rooms since you've been on here? Are you doing them
Yeah,
regularly?
I'm gonna start doing it once a week. I kind of want to work around what Almaz and Veronica got going, so we got to get our thing together because I don't want to be on when they're on. So I'm gonna try and figure out some times because I like going into their groups and listening too because I learn. I'm a student as well. So I'm gonna try and start out with one room a week, and then as I get kind of the system and the flow, because I'm getting firebombed with credit repair right now. So I want to make sure I provide a good service. So one room a week, and then I'm gonna try and work myself coming on 2 or 3 times a week, and then bringing different guests like Veronica. My boy G Boogie's going to be coming on. That's You can Google him. He calls himself G Boogie, the king of business credit. That's the cat that taught me how to do business credit. I just have to nail him down. They do like 400 or 500 corps a week, so he's always moving. So I'm going to be trying to bring these interviews on and have reoccurring guests that I really, like me and Veronica been working together for years. Antoine, G Boogie. I got my nephew. I want to kind of start that I work with in the background that you wouldn't know him if you didn't know him. So um, I I want to try to go on because I really want to be out here teaching. So my kids, I took a break, and Veronica knows my babies are big enough. I had 2 kids back to back, and they're 4 and 6 now. But I missed a lot of time with my 18-year-old, and I want to make sure I had that time with them. So now they're getting a little older. My daughter, that's my love. So she's always going to be concerned about what I'm doing. She peeked the door open just now. So she always comes to check. My boys are good enough now that we're like, oh, okay, Dad. Yeah, all right. But I wanted to make sure I got time to enjoy that because I missed a lot, bumping my head and learning. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely doing a
Oh.
lot. If Veronica would have me.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you so much. And so I think you are just a
A
wizard
wizard.
and with all of this. And so maybe me, you and Ahmed can like back channel around what a time is. I know that and Ahmed, forgive me because it's spaced when we decided to do this room yesterday. I forgot about taxing Tuesdays, and so my apologies for that. But we'll figure out like a standing time, right? We're gonna do a few more monetize your brilliance rooms too. Um, and so maybe we can powwow and kibutz a little bit and then just get clear and then have like a sort of a standing time if possible. So we'll back channel about that. So yes, we'll do it again for sure.
Yep. And if you miss any of these, you can always do the replay, and then I put them up on our YouTube channel at Noematic Elevation Group. Um, you can Google it; it'll come up. And any kind of replays or anything that I do on my channel, I put them up there for people later because a lot of people know me from YouTube as well.
You have to tell me how you did that because I've never known how to grab the recording and do that. I'm not, that's magic. What
I
wizardry
got
and sorcery are you doing here?
you.
Okay, cool. Awesome sorcery, man. I'm like, how you do that? How do you do that? All right.
Yep.
Anybody else?
What is the name of your YouTube channel?
It's the Noematic Elevation Group. It's the name. If you look, it's pinned to the top. If you just put the spelling, if you want to, I'll put the spelling down because some people are going to get the audio. It's Noe as in Edward, Matic Elevation Group. If you put that into YouTube, it'll come up with the videos. And I'm trying to stay consistent with posting and keeping everybody up with what's going on in business and credit and stuff too. We got some interviews. I have some people that come on there, like Dave Howard. He does crypto. I try to expose people to multiple things that I'm into on that channel, just to even give people ideas of different things to do with their money.
Awesome.
Does
Cool. Any other questions?
anybody?
Any other thoughts, questions before we complete? Okay. Well, Tobias, well, thank you everyone that was here. I love seeing all of your beautiful faces and uh, profile pictures. And thank you, as always, Tobias. You have saved my life, and can't thank you enough. I think you are a man of just extraordinary wisdom, and can't wait to see how we get it all done.
I
So thank you.
appreciate it. Things coming. Well, it was good talking to
Okay.
you guys, and thank you, Veronica, for coming on. And I'll try and do the room the same time next week, depending on what we come up with. I got to get with Almaz and Veronica, so we're all working together. But yeah, definitely, this will be a consistent thing. So if
Thank you.
nobody else has anything that they would like to add, I will look forward to seeing you guys in the next clubhouse. And I'll be ending everything off. I hope you guys have a good week and stay positive and healthy.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.